What if I told you that the most powerful anti-inflammatory compound you could add to your day has been sitting in your spice cabinet this entire time? Not a supplement, not a prescription, not something you need to order online and wait a week for. One clove, one whole clove, dropped into your coffee every single morning. Now, I know what you're thinking. A spice? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand why this tiny dried flower bud has been used as medicine for over 2,000 years, and why modern science is now confirming every single bit of it. Here's what we're going to cover. First, the specific molecule inside clove that works on the same biological pathway as ibuprofen, without the side effects. Second, which system in your body clove directly protects. And I'll give you a hint. It is probably not the one you were expecting. And third, the exact protocol. One clove, how to use it, when to use it, and why pairing it with your morning coffee is not an accident. If you drink coffee every single morning, and most of you do, this is the easiest upgrade you will ever make. Let's get into it. Now, here is the thing that drives me a little bit crazy. Most people look at their spice rack and they see seasoning. They see flavor. They see the stuff you shake onto food to make it taste better. And I get it. That is how we have been conditioned to think about spices for the last 100 years. You go to the grocery store, spices are in the baking aisle, right next to the vanilla extract and the food coloring, not next to the supplements, not in the pharmacy section. So somewhere along the way we decided, if it comes from a plant and it tastes good, it cannot possibly be doing serious biochemical work inside the human body. That is utterly ridiculous. Here's what most people do not know. In the 15th century, cloves were literally worth more than gold by weight. Portuguese traders were willing to sail around the entire continent of Africa, months at sea, enormous personal risk, just to control the clove supply. Not because it made food taste better, because it was medicine. It was used for pain, for infection, for preservation, for digestion. Entire trade empires were built around this one flower bud. Now here's the part that really gets me. Right now, today. If you go to your dentist for a root canal or a dry socket, there is a very good chance they are going to put eugenol directly on your tooth. Eugenol, the primary active compound in clove. Your dentist uses it as a clinical analgesic and antimicrobial because it works. It has been used in dentistry for over 100 years. It is literally in your dentist's cabinet right now. And yet if you tell someone to drop a clove in their coffee, they look at you like you are out of your mind. The compound is identical. The mechanism is the same. The only difference is whether it is arriving in a clinical context or a kitchen context. So before we go any further, I want you to set aside the idea that natural means not serious. Because what I am about to show you about what eugenol does at the cellular level, that is as serious as it gets. So what exactly is eugenol? Eugenol is the primary bioactive compound in clove. It makes up somewhere between 70 and 90% of clove's essential oil. And when you consume it, even in the small amount released from one whole clove steeped in hot coffee, it enters your bloodstream and begins doing something remarkable. It communicates with your biology at a very deep level. There is published research showing eugenol influences gene expression related to inflammation, not masking symptoms. Actually signaling the systems that regulate how your body responds to damage and chronic stress. There are 4 distinct mechanisms at work here. Let me walk you through each one. The first is inflammation. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is at the root of almost every major disease we deal with today. Heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, autoimmune conditions. The common thread running through all of them is an inflammatory signal that never turns off. And most people, when they feel it, joint pain, morning stiffness, brain fog, fatigue that has no obvious explanation, they reach for ibuprofen, or aspirin, or naproxen. Those drugs work by inhibiting something called CAX-2 enzymes. Now, what is a CAX-2 enzyme? Think of it like an alarm siren inside your cells. When your body detects damage or threat, CAX-2 activates the inflammatory signal. In short bursts, you need that. That is how you heal. But if those sirens are running constantly, day after day, year after year, that is chronic inflammation. And that is when it starts destroying tissue. Eugenol inhibits CAX-2. Same pathway, same basic mechanism as ibuprofen. Here is the critical difference. NSAIDs, ibuprofen, aspirin, all of them. They also inhibit CX1. And CX1 is what protects your stomach lining. That is why long-term NSAID use destroys the gut. You are putting out one fire and starting another. Eugenol targets CX2 with significantly greater selectivity. You get the anti-inflammatory effect without that collateral damage to your digestive tract. For anyone dealing with chronic inflammation who is also trying to protect their gut, that distinction is enormous. The second mechanism is antioxidant activity. Your cells produce waste. It is a byproduct of energy production, the same way an engine produces exhaust. That waste comes in the form of free radicals, unstable molecules that, if not neutralized, damage proteins, cell membranes, and your DNA. That damage accumulates over years, over decades. It accelerates aging. It accelerates disease. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals. And clove, out of all the foods on planet Earth, has one of the highest antioxidant scores ever recorded. The ORAC score of cloves is approximately 290,000 units per 100 grams. Blueberries, which everyone talks about, come in around 4,600. That is not a close comparison. We are talking about roughly 60 times the antioxidant density. One clove in your morning coffee is delivering an antioxidant concentration that most people do not come close to matching, even with a carefully planned diet. The third mechanism is blood sugar regulation, and this one is particularly important. If you deal with energy crashes after meals, stubborn weight around the midsection, or cravings that seem completely out of your control, pay attention here. Eugenol has been shown to improve insulin receptor sensitivity. Now, what does that mean exactly? Think of insulin as a key and the receptor on your cell as a lock. When that lock becomes stiff, when it becomes insulin resistant, your pancreas has to produce more and more insulin just to get the same result. That is the beginning of metabolic dysfunction. Eugenol oils that lock. It makes the receptor more responsive, so your body can process glucose more efficiently with less insulin and less strain on the pancreas. Now here's why pairing this with coffee specifically is so smart. Coffee, especially on an empty stomach, can raise cortisol, and cortisol raises blood glucose. For most people, the effect is mild, but it is real, and it is happening every morning. Adding clove blunts that effect. You are getting the alertness from the caffeine while simultaneously supporting your glucose regulation. That is not an accident. That is a genuinely intelligent combination. The fourth mechanism is gut protection. Your gut is the front line of your immune system. Somewhere between 70 and 80% of your immune activity originates there. And yet most people are walking around with gut environments that are significantly dysregulated. Pathogenic bacteria, Candida, H. pylori, quietly damaging the stomach lining for years without a single obvious symptom. Eugenol has demonstrated broad-spectrum antimicrobial activity across multiple research settings. Effective against H. pylori, effective against Candida, inhibitory against a range of pathogenic bacteria. And here's what makes it particularly interesting. Most antimicrobials, pharmaceutical or natural, are indiscriminate. They go in and eliminate everything. Eugenol shows a more targeted profile. It disrupts the cell membranes of pathogens with significantly less collateral damage to your beneficial microbiome. 4 mechanisms, 1 clove. Every morning. That is a remarkable return on something that costs almost nothing. Now I want to show you the actual data, because numbers matter. When you see a comparison directly, side by side, it lands differently than taking someone's word for it. Start with antioxidants. Cloves, 290,000 ORAC units per 100 grams. Blueberries, 4,669. Pomegranate, around 4,400. Dark chocolate, which gets a lot of attention in the health space, approximately 20,000. Turmeric, one of the most celebrated anti-inflammatory foods on the planet, around 127,000. Cloves are more than double turmeric, more than 60 times blueberries. Out of all the foods on planet Earth, clove sits at the very top of antioxidant density. That is a measurement, not an opinion. Now the inflammation research. A study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food examined eugenol's ability to inhibit CAX2 enzyme activity at therapeutic concentrations, meaning amounts actually achievable through dietary intake, not megadose laboratory conditions. Eugenol demonstrated CAX2 inhibition comparable to standard NSAID compounds at those concentrations. Comparable to ibuprofen. From a spice you can buy at any grocery store. Additional work published in food chemistry confirmed the mechanism and specifically noted eugenol's selectivity for CAX2 over CAX1, which, as I explained, is exactly what protects the stomach lining. This research is published. It is peer-reviewed. It is not obscure. It is just not part of the conversation most people are having about their morning routine. Check back in right now, because this next one is important, the blood sugar data. Researchers tracked participants over 30 days, measuring the effects of clove supplementation on metabolic markers. At the end of the study, fasting blood sugar was down, triglycerides were down, LDL cholesterol was down. Across the board, 30 days. One simple dietary addition. I want to be precise here. This was not a massive trial, but the direction of the data is consistent across multiple independent studies, and the mechanism explains exactly why you would expect those results. When insulin receptors become more sensitive, downstream metabolic markers improve. The data and the mechanism point in the same direction, the gut research. A meta-analysis examining eugenol's activity against H. pylori reviewed 14 independent studies. H. pylori, by the way, is estimated to be present in roughly half the global population. Most people carrying it have no idea. It quietly damages the stomach lining, contributes to ulcers, and has been linked to gastric cancer in chronic cases. Out of those 14 studies, eugenol showed meaningful inhibitory action against H. pylori in 11 out of 14. That is a remarkable hit rate for something that costs less than $1 per week. And then there is the historical record. Ayurvedic medicine has been prescribing clove for digestive health, oral health, and respiratory conditions for over 3,000 years. Traditional Chinese medicine carries an equally long record of use. Medieval European physicians, before germ theory, before any modern biochemical framework, were using clove for infection and pain and arriving at the right answer empirically. Sometimes the oldest data is the most durable. I always find it interesting that we treat ancient medical traditions as primitive, right up until modern research confirms exactly what practitioners were observing for millennia, and then suddenly it becomes credible. It was always credible. We just did not have the instruments to explain the mechanism. Now we do. All right, let's make this very simple, because it is simple. And I think that is actually what makes people skeptical. We have been conditioned to believe that if something is genuinely good for you, it has to be complicated, expensive, or unpleasant. This is none of those things. Here is the exact protocol. Step 1. Use 1 whole clove, not powder. Whole clove. This matters. The eugenol in clove is preserved inside the intact bud. The moment you grind it into powder, you accelerate oxidation and lose potency. Whole clove keeps the compound protected until heat releases it. 1 clove. That is the dose. You do not need 2. You do not need 5. Step 2. Add it to your coffee correctly. You have 2 options. The simplest, drop the whole clove directly into your coffee grounds before you brew. The hot water extracts the eugenol and it goes straight into your cup. You will not taste it dramatically. There is a subtle warmth, a slight depth to the flavor. Most people find they actually enjoy it. The more potent option. Steep the clove in near boiling water for 5 minutes first, then use that water as your coffee base. This gives you a more concentrated extraction. If you are dealing with significant inflammation or gut issues, start here. Step 3. Get the timing right. Morning is correct. But if you already know that coffee on an empty stomach does not agree with you, have something small first. A few bites. Then your clove coffee. Eugenol is bioactive, and on an already irritated gut, it can occasionally cause discomfort. Not dangerous. Just unnecessary friction. For most people, first thing in the morning with no food is completely fine. Step 4. Give it the right amount of time. This is where most people fail with any natural protocol. 4 days, nothing dramatic, and they stop. Here is the honest timeline. In the first week, the most noticeable effect for most people is breath. The antimicrobial activity in the mouth and upper digestive tract is fast. Your partner may notice before you do. By days 14 to 21, people with chronic joint stiffness typically start reporting mornings that feel different. Not dramatic, just less resistance. Less time before the body feels like it is working properly. The blood sugar and metabolic markers. The ones we saw in the research were measured at 30 days. That is your real assessment window. Minimum, 21 days. Full picture, 30. Now, the mistakes to avoid. First, do not switch to clove powder thinking it is equivalent. It is not. Powder is more concentrated, less stable, and at higher amounts it can irritate mucous membranes. 1 whole clove. Second, and this is important, do not confuse whole clove with clove essential oil. Clove oil is an entirely different concentration. It can cause serious irritation or toxicity if ingested improperly. That is not what we are doing here. Third, do not treat this as a substitute for the fundamentals. Clove is a powerful layer, but if the diet is poor and sleep is 4 hours a night, 1 clove is not going to override that. This works best on top of basics that are already reasonably in place. Try this for 30 days. Do not take my word for it. Prove it to yourself. Come back in 30 days and tell me how you feel. I mean that. Drop it in the comments. Tell me what changed. Tell me what you noticed. Tell me if it worked, or if it did not. I read the comments and I respond to as many as I can. The conversation down there is part of what makes this worth doing. If this video gave you something useful, if it changed how you think about something that has been sitting in your kitchen this entire time, hit the like button. It costs you 1 second and it helps this reach more people who need it. And if you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. Every video I put out is built around the same idea. Giving you the information that helps you understand what is actually happening inside your body so you can make better decisions for yourself. No panic, no drama, just the science explained clearly. That is what we do here. I am Andrew Collins, and I will see you in the next video.